Next, we are going to cover up optimization problem number 6. So optimization problem involving number 6 type is also an exponential function problem. And for exponential functions, as I told you before, you will always be given equations, so you don't have to worry about forming your equation, but we just need to work on the given equation in order to find out our optimization solution. Let's read the question first. A mathematical consultant determines that the proportion of people who will have responded to the advertisement of a new product after it has been marketed for t days is given by ft equal to 0.7. In the bracket there is 1 minus e to the power negative 0.2t. The area covered by the advertisement contains 10 million potential customers, and each response to the advertisement results in revenue to the company of 70 cents on an average, excluding the cost of advertising. So this is just the revenue. The advertising costs is $30,000 to produce the advertisement and a $5,000 per day to run the advertisement. Now, what does this question mean is that you are given a proportion of people who will respond to the advertisement. So let's say advertisement hoarding is put in a particular city, and then this equation is going to represent how many people would respond to the advertisement. So how many people out of the total number of people in that area would respond to the advertisement. So this is kind of a fraction of people who would respond to the advertisement, which is represented with this equation. Okay, now they say that if we have a total of 10 million people in that area, in that particular city, there are 10 million people who are staying, then out of 10 million people, how many people would respond to the advertisement is going to be seen in this fraction. They say if everybody out of these 10 million people provide a response to the advertisement, there will be a revenue to the company. Means the company is going to earn 70 cents on an average per person. So apart from that, the company has to spend some amount of money for producing this advertisement, and that is $30,000. Plus the company makes sure that the advertisement $5,000 per day in order to make sure that the advertisement is run smoothly every day. Now the first part of the question wants you to determine the limit t approaches infinity ft. That means we have to find out ft represents the proportion of people who are going to respond to the advertisement. So if I need to find out a limit where t approaches infinity, that means if I run this advertisement for infinite number of days, because t represents the number of days for which this advertisement is run. So if this advertisement is run for infinite number of days, how much proportion of people would actually be going to responding to this advertisement? That's what this question means. So all we have to do is going to be substituting t as infinite in this equation. So let's write the equation first. Then we substitute t as infinity. Always remember, anything multiplied by infinity is infinity. So we have e to the power negative infinity. And you would always see that e to the power of infinity will give you a 0. So we're left with 0.5, 1 minus 0, and this would give you 0.7 times 1, which is 0.7. This means 7 out of 10 people would respond to the advertisement, or the proportion of people that respond to the advertisement is 0.7. When they ask you to interpret this result, what is the interpretation for this is the proportion of people who respond to this advertisement is. And with this, we're done part A. Next we have is what percent of potential customers have responded after 7 days of advertising. So in this case, my t is going to be 7. So I'm going to still be using the same equation, proportion equation, which is ft equal to 0.7, 1 minus e to the power negative t. But now in this case, I'm going to sub in t as 7. When you would put this all in the calculator, you will see that you will get 0.75 here. When we multiply this, we would get 0.525, or we can just say this is 0.53. Now 0.53 represents the proportion of people who will respond to the advertisement in 7 days. We need to find out not the proportion, we need to find out the percentage. And percentage is always going to be proportion multiplied by 100. Proportion is nothing but fraction. So whenever we are given a fraction and we need to find a percentage, we just need to multiply the fraction with 100 and we get percentage. And we would be able to get 53% of people would respond to the advertisement in 7 days. Next part of the question is, write the function to represent the average profit after T days of advertising. Now we need to find out profit. We are given proportion of people who are going to respond to the advertisement. We're not given a profit equation. So our goal is to get the profit equation. And for that, always remember your profit comes from your revenue and the cost. Do we know our revenue? Yes, we know the revenue is 70 cents, but this is the revenue per customer. And the costs are given to us as 30,000 plus $5,000 per day. So always remember your profit comes from revenue and cost. So profit is always revenue minus cost. First, let's find out what is revenue. Your revenue will be the proportion of people who have responded to the advertisement, and that is FT, multiplied by wherever this advertisement is posted, how many potential customers are there? There are 10 million potential customers. So we would multiply it by the number of potential customers. 10 million is 10 to the power 7, multiplied by the revenue from each person. And that revenue from each person comes from this value. So this will give us the total revenue. If we write the final revenue equation, that would give us 0.71 minus e to the power negative 0.2t multiplied by 10 to the power 7 times 0.70. I am just going to combine everything. So if I multiply this by this, all I'm going to be left with is 7 times 10 to the power 6. Inside the bracket, I'm left with 0.7. 1 minus e to the power negative 0.2t. So this is my revenue. I still need my cost. My cost is going to be $30,000 plus $5,000 per day. So let's say the advertisement runs for 3 days. So this is my cost going to be. Now if I want to write down my profit equation, because my profit is revenue minus cost, and my revenue is 7 times 10 to the power 6. In the bracket, I have 0.7, 1 minus e to the power negative 2, negative point. So in the bracket, and the revenue is 7 times 10 to the power 6, 0.7, 1 minus e to the power negative 0.2t minus cost plus 5,000t. So this is my profit equation in T days. I want to find out my profit equation after this in 7 days. I am all going to do is substitute wherever I see T as 7. And I'm going to be finally left with is 3,627,000. So this is going to be the profit for the company if the advertisement is run for 7 days. Now let's move on to part D, sorry. For how many days should the advertisement be run in order to maximize the average profit? Now we have to maximize the average profit. Maximizing profit means we have to optimize profit. For optimizing, we always have to make sure that we follow the extreme value algorithm. We do have a profit equation. This is our profit equation. Once we get our equation, our next step is to find out the domain. And domain is decided on the basis of T, because T is what this profit equation is in the form of. Now to find out the domain, we know the time that this advertisement could run for. The minimum is 0 days. Or what is the maximum time this advertisement could run for is, they have given you the budget of this advertisement. Budget is going to help us decide the maximum number of days for which this advertisement is going to run. Because budget is the one that is going to cap our cost. So this is the one that is going to limit our cost. We would just put our cost value less than equal to the budget value, because we cannot go beyond this. And then we solve for t. We see we get 170,000. So t is going to be less than equal to 170, which is going to be 34. So from here we get to know that our maximum t is 34, means this advertisement can run for a maximum number of days is 34 days. We have got our domain, we have got our equation. Now we are all set to find out the first step for finding maximum profit is we find out the derivative of profit. Because there are two terms in the profit equation, we would find the derivative of each term. This is all a constant, so I can write this as 4.9 times 10 to the power 6. I can find the derivative of this is a 0 and derivative of this is a 5,000. I can expand this. I'll be able to get 4.9 times 10 to the power 6 minus 4.9 times 10 to the power 6 e to the power negative 0.2t. So I have to find out the derivative of this, derivative of this, and this I've already found out the derivative. I'm just left with a 5,000. This is 0. Derivative of this is going to be using exponential equation derivative formula. So I have 4.9 times 10 to the power 6, and then this one is going to go as is, e to the power negative 0.2t, and then I'm going to re-derivate this, so that gives me negative 0.2t derivative minus 5,000. And after I find out the derivative of this, I'm just going to be left with minus 4.9 times 10 to the power 6 times negative 0.2. This would give us 9.8 times 10 to the power 5 e to the power negative 0.2t minus 5,000. This is my final derivative equation. Now to find out the critical number, all I have to do is just put this derivative equation equal to 0, this t, and this would give us e to the power negative 0.2t equal to 0.005 102. It's a long number, you don't have to take so many numbers. Now we know exponential function, in order to solve the power, we can write it in the logarithmic form. So we can take log on both sides and we'll be able to get ln. So we would get natural log of 0.005 102 will be equal to negative 0.2t. And now we can isolate for t. When you put it all in the calculator, ln this divided by negative 0.2, you'll be able to see that your t value is equal to 26. Now we have first t value as the limit of domain that comes from here. Second t value is your critical number, that is 26. And third t value comes from 34. All we have to do is just put these t values into the profit equation, that big equation that we started with. So this is our profit equation. We'll put this t in the profit equation and we'll sub in t as 0 first in the equation. We would see that the answer that we get is minus 30,000 in this case. When you sub in 26 in there, the profit is going to be 4,713,000, and when we sub in 34, the profit is going to be 4,695,000. From here we would see that the maximum profit we see is when the advertisement is going to run for 26 days. From here the company is going to decide that it's always good to run the advertisement for 26 days in order to have the maximum profit, and that is your final answer.